starting, and we are live. This is Troy Pasolo with another Workflow Wednesday now with Troy. And today I get to talk about our last webinar from Thirdera. We're talking about Common Services Data Model 4.0. And with me, I have the presenters from that. Let me unpin my camera. There we go. Calisse, say hello.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Nice to be here.
Thanks for joining. And Nate.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. Excited for this conversation.
I sure appreciate the effort you guys have put in. We've been working on projects together, a number of different things, but I know both of you have spent a big chunk of time looking at how we help customers through that journey of, oh, I've got CIs. and how do I build that into really understanding the impact to the organization? And like we need another acronym, but we do. We have CMDB and CSDM. That's what I wanted to spend some time talking about today. Tell me how the webinar went.
I think it went well. So like I was saying, on 24 is one of the things that I've seen ServiceNow do webinars in, and I really like the platform from the user perspective. So being somebody who's watching the meeting and somebody who's looking at it, being able to make the screen bigger, being able to download the presentation, all of that was really great. But then Nate and I did that paradigm shift and we're on the other side of it, and it's just another tool, right? So it's just us having the time to get it up and get it going. I thought it went well. I thought the questions were very on point to what we were talking about, which means that our message got across. And interestingly enough,
what were some of those key questions? You know, as people started looking through that.
It's where am I at? Where am I at on the journey? So that tends to be the big question. And always, as we do this, at least what I'm seeing, I think Nate might be seeing the same thing, is, we look at this from, we do roadmaps and we go in and we adjust and we look at, we just do that deep dive into your system and look at your CMDB, look at just holistically at the whole thing. And as we're doing that, we're always thinking common service data model. But that doesn't always match one-to-one with the organization's goals. So what we've seen is they may start an application portfolio management project and have not really even thought about how healthy is their CMDB, or they're looking at service offerings. And so how healthy is my CMDB? And it does that where we circle back around and they're like going, services? I need services. What is this all about? What are all those pieces and parts that I need to be successful? And I find it to be really a marriage of technology and the business.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we talk to some of our customers and we see pieces of the road in place. Right. We might have the second 20 feet of that road in place, but the base or the foundation isn't quite there yet. And so you have to go back and kind of go back to the roots of this and kind of repave things going forward.
Yeah. And I found that a lot. The painful part of that is when they've honestly really already started. So if they've really already started and they were doing common service data model 1 or 2, and the angst that they have when we start talking about stratifying out services, it almost puts an organization in a panic mode. So, and like Nate said, when you got to step back on your journey and really make sure your foundation's there, it's just something that you need to do. And it's just a process. I think when Nate and I were talking, we were trying to just say it's just a process to make sure you check those boxes, because it's going to come to a point where you're going to be blocked and you're going to need to check those boxes. It's not the end of the world, is what we're trying to say. It wasn't the end of the world. It's just another piece in the journey that you need to do to be successful.
That's where I think that journey analogy fits so well. You think about going on a hike, right? There's times where it's like the trail's really clear. I need to get my CIs together. I need to put them in the right class. I need to go right the fields. I need to have some governance of who owns what and where it fits. But then you come around the corner and it's like the trail isn't quite clear which way to go. There's a number of different paths, what look like paths, but which one of them really, and the GPS might not help.
Yeah.
But to me, that's where the CSDM 4.0 has been so helpful, at least in my head, because I can see where some of these pieces fit to help, like you said, chart out where you go. So you're not bouncing around building pieces, but you can work tactically while thinking strategically, right?
Exactly. And it's really been, I feel that people threw that digital transformation word around a lot with not really understanding the underlying pieces that go to it. And these discussions that we have in ServiceNow has really been pinning on common service data model, brings that all to light. It just really does bubble that up so that people understand what we mean and what, the IT world means by digital transformation.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confusion as well around, we start talking services in application services and business services and technical services. And from an IT perspective, being on the other side of the fence at one point, you think everything is technical. You forget to look at it from the other perspective. So helping the technical folks understand the differences between services, I think, is important as well.
I do too. Like in my past life, it was interesting. Like I said in my thing, I came from operations. It was literally the apps and the ops teams. We were ops. We did stuff over here. The apps team, they did stuff over here. And then the business was over here somewhere. Where this really
siloed walls in between.
Yeah, big siloed walls. I work in IT, but I don't work in apps. I work in ops, or the opposite, right? And it's breaking down those silos and bridging those gaps, and remembering that we all work for whatever organization we work for, and in the end, it's in the best interest to make sure that we've got a path forward for them, and that we're really coming down to looking at it from the business perspective. What are the services that they offer, and how are we, supporting that? Not just in that silo. I work on ops. I go to the data center. I'm looking at all of the pieces, like Nate said, all the technical pieces. It's just bringing that up. And, Nate said that a lot too, as we were talking through it, is just making sure you know what that goal is. What's the end goal? Keeping your head up in the technical space to understand what's the business looking for out of us, right?
Right. I think we've heard that from several of the other teams is ask why, right? You kind of get to the why are we on this journey? What's the business goal that we really care about? Let's talk a little bit more about the 4.0, right? So I know you spent a lot of time earlier on one of our other sessions, and you're involved in really helping putting together and bringing that 4.0 version of the common services data model out. What are some of the things for those that have had some more this with CSDM? What's really different, and what are the key areas that someone, if they're familiar with prior versions, that they should really focus on? Yeah, this 4.0 brings really to them. What changed in 4.0 that people should really care about?
So much. I mean, it's like, where to start?
Well, we can live stream all day.
Yeah, we could live stream all day on this, and it would be, I think the biggest thing that I'm running into with people that have started the journey is that stratifying the services out of the business service table. It's so confusing. Like Nate said, and understanding your services, that sounds very simple, but it's not. Right. And you get into these deep discussions that really interestingly come back to what does your business offer? What kind of services, what business are you in? The services you offer in banking are going to be different than the services you'd offer if you're, Amazon Web Services, right?
Right.
So in Amazon Web Services, you might be offering servers, but at a bank, you're going to be offering loans. So how your model looks could be different, because it's just a guide. It's a guide for you to make those decisions. And those decisions are some of the hardest things people have to make. So with 4.0, when you stratify out those services, it really starts bringing home technical versus application services. And then business services is over in service offerings. That moving the technical to its own domain purely, and then having what the offerings that you're offering the business in their own domain too, under service portfolio, is to me a paradigm shift. And then all the other things that they brought with it were really some cool things. I just got into a conversation yesterday with an organization about life cycles. That's a huge thing. That's going to be, I mean, I thought I was going to jump for joy. I think I said that I mean, how many times, Nate, have you and I been in these things, and we're looking at all the different asset life cycles, state status, right, and all the different CI state status. And then I was just talking to somebody yesterday that, well, they don't match. Well, they're not really supposed to match, but I want a service catalog item that lets somebody change the state and status on an asset. I'm like, no. But being able to move that into life cycles, being able to have that table, being able to automatically, that's the other thing too. Well, if I go to this life cycle, I that's a lot of work, and it's not, right? So there's no thought about it. So when you do it and you turn it on, it fills in those fields for you based on your decisions that you made, which then does help you when you start doing the reporting and common service data model. So that's just like one piece of it, right? That's one piece of 4, the stratifying, and then how they did life cycles were 2 of the really big things I saw come out of 4. Right. Nate, what do you think were some of the big things that came out of 4?
Well, when we start talking about the entire build domain and some of the additions there, right? SDLC, right. Bringing application and business services together there, I think is huge.
I do too, and I think that gap for change was a big thing, and really being able to bubble up with the tools like event management and those sorts of things to really be able to see, okay, well, we moved from 1.0 to 1.1 in the SDLC, and then we're seeing X. So that black box of changing versions of things, you're really going to be able to see how healthy that is. So that's another thing is the business being able to see how healthy is the applications that they decided to purchase, right? Mm-hmm. And how are they working in their ecosystem. And I really like, that business capability tying back over to the business service and being able to stratify that, bring that up that extra level so that this is what you offer. And then whatever applications, whether you homegrown them, with the SDLC, or whether you bought them, those are, you can change those out without changing what you're offering the business. I find that to be really a boon. If you understand that, I think, then you start getting your head around, the other stuff is it's tech, right? Just moving stuff around and making sure things are in the right place.
Yeah. You move the pieces there and you can prioritize, right? That's the part that I love about that is you start to see that interconnecting of how these technologies support what the business is really trying to do. It's visibility and impact, but it also gives us ability to really prioritize from the business standpoint. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off, Nate.
No, you kind of hit the nail on the head with exactly where I was going there, right? You're bringing that impact analysis or the ability to connect all the way into the capabilities of the business and the impact that technology change brings.
For me, we all have a different background. We come from different places, right? I come out of engineering in industrial automation and then jumped into marketing and product marketing. And so for me, when I look at, Nate, when you brought in kind of some of the app dev and development pieces and tying that into the organization, I get both life cycle. When I think about from a project delivery standpoint, we're going to extend this product. Here's our scope to go, because I was a PMP for a while. How do you jump into a project and deliver? And that's the life cycle I care about then. But I was also certified in product management. So how do I bring those new capabilities, even as it's business services? We as an organization want to bring this to light. How do we sustain it, grow it, and understand when we should sunset it? to me that CSDM 4.0 gives me a framework to be able to do both of those.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
That is really what it's for. And I think it's interesting from ServiceNow as a tech company really looking at it that way, and really taking the approach that they're taking is making it easy for us, people that are ServiceNow. This is, what we do is ServiceNow to really get behind the product. You always say salesman, you have to believe in what you sell. And I feel like that ServiceNow being able to do this, I really believe that the platform itself and the tools that are available to you really help you become successful in your journey. I think they just really, really do. Because they took that and they moved it up.
Agree.
Yeah, looking at some of the other tools out there, I don't think anybody else has taken the level of thought around, like CSDM and applied it to their product. Right. And ServiceNow has really pulled all these areas of the platform together with CSDM nicely.
I agree.
I'd like to transition just a little bit the conversation. I think we could, like we were joking, we could stream all day just picking at either parts of this. But I want to be very respectful of your time. The webinar is available. The link, I'll put it in the social post below, or if anyone goes to thirdera.com/webinars, you can see not only our upcoming ones, but you can see our past webinars. People can register for it. As they register, of course, they can watch the content, but they can also download our content. But one of the things that I'd like to really talk through is what next. If clients are watching this, clients we're on that webinar, they want some other information. What's that journey look like to have us kind of parachute in, find them at that crossroads, if you will, in the wilderness, and say, hey, we're here. Let's talk through that a little bit. What does that look like for someone to join Thirdera, reach out and have us jump in to help them chart where they're at in the journey and to chart that course forward?
Absolutely. So, we've got a number of offerings, that we can work with our potential customers on. Assessments are a great starting point for any journey, right? Coming in, understanding the business, understanding the goals and objectives, and then kind of painting that roadmap, and then working side by side with your organization to actually develop out that roadmap and bring it to fruition.
Cool. Calisse, what would you add in the midst of that journey?
Oh, right. I feel like Nate and I say the same thing sometimes, but exactly it's that. Consistent. It's very, I would say personal, but every business is different. I mean, I think the big thing with that, we talk, Nate and I talk, and then, people contact us and then they ask about the journey. They ask about what exactly are we going to do step by step. And we have to take that step back and say, we don't know until we look to see where you're at on the road. And then depending on where you're at on the road, just like you said, I'm parachuting in. Where are you? Are you looking at a mountain and you have no climbing gear? Or, did you lose a shoe somewhere along the way? Is it raining and you didn't bring rain gear? I mean, there's all of those sorts of things when you're on this journey that we really start looking at to understand what we need to give you, what we need to help you with. Did your GPS lose its batteries? Let's get those in there and let's get you on the way so that, in the end, you're successful. That's just, it's very, very dependent on your company and where you're at.
Absolutely. And it's, it's not just where you're at with the platform, it's the people, the process, and the technology. So it's really understanding that entire picture, understanding who's sitting in what chair and who's doing what, and really putting all those pieces together to be successful.
Yeah, that's so true. It's interesting. I think many of us in this consulting business hear that people, process, and technology. And so often, ourselves included and clients included, we want to just hone in on, well, what do we need to do in the technology? And the way I've said it is across those people, process, and technology, technology is easy. yes,
is.
there's work, and yes, it takes experience and knowledge and wisdom, right? While I say that, I think in comparison, at least in my experience, spending time in the people's area, so what people are thinking, feeling, emoting as they go through, wrestling with how do I do work better, and what are the processes around it, those can be so significant in comparison, right?
Huge. And I am interesting, as we come in, a lot of times they're pivoted towards the technology. There's a reason it starts with people. It isn't technology, people, and process. It's not technology, process, and people. It's people,
right?
Number one,
right?
What are your people, right? And then what is your process? And then what is your technology? Again, it's almost the same thing as looking at business capabilities and business applications, right? You can change out your technology, but your people and your process are key components to making sure this is successful and understanding what it is. And so many times in my life, you go to a meeting and you're only talking to the techs. You're not talking to the people that actually use the product, which is the people. Which when we go in and we do these roadmaps, one of the first things that we start talking about is governance, right? Making sure that we have overall governance, for the project we're doing, governance on the platform, but governance overall, and how are we going to do this whole plan? And then we talk about organizational change management, which is people, right? Those are the two big things we start with, even before we get to the technology part. And the 400 slides we'll show you on technology. I'm kidding. We don't show you that. But we want to talk to you about, how are you governing? So what's your path, right? What are you thinking? And then, where are your people at? Like Nate said, who's in the chair? What are their pain points? What can we do to make their job easier? Because if their job's easier and they're happier, then you're happier, your customers are happier. And so we start with that. And even as you do that, we look at value streams. So, how is your customer looking at this? When you start saying digital transformation, we're really talking about people. How do people see your organization when they come to get something from you, a product? How do they perceive you? Are they happy when they're done? Do they talk great? Oh, this was a great experience. Working with, Thirdera was awesome. I got exactly what I needed. That's the kind of people thing that, Nate's been talking about. We really got to get in there and look at your people. And then processes, I swear, it's interesting. I have processes, and they pull out this binder from 1972. They said it, blow the dust off it. Here's our processes. Yeah, I've got them wrote down, but are you implementing them? Right. And are they really something that you're still doing?
Right. They were documented once and haven't been updated since.
Yeah.
Evolved since then.
Yeah, indeed.
But never update the documentation.
Yeah.
One of the other thoughts that comes to mind, just as we close, I think a lot of times as we talk about that tech versus business, what phrases or words or questions could we equip a process owner or a technology owner that is immersed in and has really seen the value of the CMDB and CSDM, but are having a tough time translating that to business speak, to really understand as they look around the organization, who should they be trying to engage with and how to help really bridge that gap into the CMDB is more than just what tech cares about? That's
probably the most difficult part. And that's getting the right people in the meeting. I always say right people, you'll hear me say this, right people, right place, right time. When you start talking about this, you need C-suite, you need executive sponsorship. These people need to be involved to help you find the people that tech needs to talk to understand the business process, understand the pain points, to make it easier. And it's also to me, being old ops person, that paradigm shift of thinking for technology people. Why am I here? What am I doing every day? What's the point of what I'm doing? So many times ops is in some room somewhere. I always think about it as my first ops job. I went to training and they literally asked, how many are in a closet? How many have a window? Nobody had a window. How many are someplace cold working? So it's taking us out of, let's get us out of the dungeon and let's get us talking to people and understand why we do what we do, and getting the right people in the meetings. It's really executive sponsorship, to get there.
Nate, your thoughts?
Yeah, it just goes back to that thought of, you might be that ops person sitting in the chair, making sure that those servers stay up, that the lights stay on in the data center, or maybe they're off. But understanding how that technology delivers outcomes for the business, how, the loan department, is able to, produce loans and give loans to customers because that server stays on.
Right.
So it's understanding not just your piece right here in front of you, but understanding the relationships down the road, with your business partners, and how that server affects them.
To me, I think it's an extension of, really the forced market transformation that we've been through over the last, 2.5+ years, that, things have gotten so digital, so virtual. I mean, look, we're meeting like this and on the Zoom call. Technology has become a key component for how employees get work done and how customers or clients engage with the companies that they engage with to get those services. And I think what you guys both poked at and really identified is, as we're working inside of technology, using the common services data model lets us reach up into the C-suite to have those conversations. That right now, if I point at this now with Troy, right now in the business world, we need to become digital. And that means, these CIs that I've been ranting about for years.
Yeah.
It's almost like they matter, and here's why, right?
Yeah. I always equate it, when I talk to solution architects, and I'm, putting somebody in a meeting, it's like, you're like a marriage counselor. You really are in there with the tech people and with the C-suite, and let's have a conversation. What's our path? What's most important to us to get us to the goalpost, right? To get us to our goal.
Right. Indeed. We're almost at time. So let me do this to kind of wrap it up. Thirdera.com/webinars. People can go and register, check out the good webinar. If you missed it, download our links. But I think more importantly, if this resonated at all, reach out to us at Thirdera. Easy to find on LinkedIn if you haven't found me already. Let's find a time to talk and really see where you're at with your CMDB. Do you feel like you're lost in the wilderness? Let's figure out how we can parachute in and help you kind of, or chart where you're at and make that path forward. Any closing thoughts from you, Calisse and Nate?
It's a journey. So don't be discouraged.
Journey.
Yeah, right? Don't be discouraged, and we're here to help. I mean, we've got a lot of experts, not just Nate and I. We're very deep in experts. So we're more than happy to come in and give you a hand if you need a hand.
Absolutely. We've got great expertise here at Thirdera, but we also have a couple more webinars coming up around CMDB and CSDM. So keep an eye out for that as well.
Exciting stuff indeed. Thank you both for taking the time. I know you're very, very busy. You're helping lots of clients. So I appreciate taking time to do this. And, I look forward to working with our clients and having these conversations to help them chart where they're at with their current CMDB, build out those different types of services up to business services so they can communicate business value from the technology. Again, thanks so much. Appreciate you joining, and I look forward to hearing how things go with you as you build out your CSDM. With that, goodbye. And turn